So shall so everybody,
I think this finishes at
it is my great honour and privilege to present to you Matthew, who's going to do a talk, staying ahead of a testing curve. That's the future. So everybody, be inspired. Gamafi, take it away.
Before we start, it's been a very long day, isn't it? We've been listening to a lot of information about testing, quantum, automation, DevOps, and everything. Right? And we're nearly there. Like we've got one more session and we are done, isn't it? So before that, I know we all the exercise we have been doing today has been just sitting down, walking there, having some food, having a drink, coming back. So how about we do a little bit of like a movement so we're all in the moment and not mentally drained out. Can I ask who wants to be part of it? Just to give a stand up for me, please. It's a move right to left. Give your leg the movement. Yeah. Roll your shoulders. Yeah, you can see.
I'm going to do a Mexican wave as well.
Okay. Everyone, anything more now. Let's get started.
Yeah, quite on that.
Thank you for that. So look at participation. I'm so excited that I have attended to. There have been so much of information I have gathered, and you're going to get a mix of everything in my session. My session was supposed to be 1 in the morning, and I'm so glad it's got moved to the last but the penultimate one, because it's going to have a mix of all the information that you've got from the previous ones. So without further ado, let's get started. A little bit about me. I'm very new to BCS. Like I think a couple of weeks ago, I registered and I want to introduce myself to all of you who are here. So this is my little family, my perfect little family, my partner, my 11-year-old son, nearly 12. He hates me telling he's 11 now, but they're my backbone. So every presentation I do, every talk I give outside my organization, he wants me to talk about it. He wants me to present to him, and he gives me like genuine, honest, and rude feedback. This one I did. I'll get to the point where we're talking about the area that I'm working, and I will actually give you the feedback he actually gave me. Right, so that's that. And moving on from there, that's us on lovely holidays. As a family, we love to go on beautiful holidays, affordable ones, obviously, but we tend to explore places because as fellow testers, I think you all agree that exploring and experiencing cultures is the best way to learn about other people and other geographical locations, let's put it that way. And recently I celebrated my 40th birthday. No shame in hiding my age here. And yeah, we went on a holiday to Dubai, and that's been my favorite one so far. So about 8 years ago, back then it was a very critical illness that I had picked up, heart related, and I couldn't do majority of the things I used to do before that. This is, I'm talking about 2016, 2017. And the physical stoppage to what I used to do affected me mentally. And for almost 2 years, I struggled with it. And I was going through a bit of depression. I was on medication. And I'm not saying overnight it transformed and I just decided to redo my life. But I took that decision that that's not going to stop me. And today I'm proud to say, not once, but I've completed the London Marathon twice. So if you really, really want to do something, I think you can definitely do it. And that's been my mantra. Right, so that's my personal side, right? My professional side, going back to this picture again. I've got close to 20 years of experience across various domains. Started off with insurance, healthcare, property, retail, marketplaces, and now with blockchain, right? So blockchain happened to me, but I just embraced it. So how do I keep up with these various domains I've worked with, right? Because you need to keep learning, you keep upskilling yourself. I know many of the talks we heard today is like upskilling your skill set, just don't stick with what you have, learn what's new in the industry, let it be blockchain, Web3, AI, quantum, we heard people talk about quantum computers. Majority of the things was like overhead for me, whatever Carl and Jonathan spoke, but I'm still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed it, right? So my most recent certification that I've done is obviously with blockchain, and who doesn't like showing off their badges, isn't it? So I thought I'd put my latest one out there. And that's my company. I work for Simba Chain. I head the QA team. What Simba is basically, we're a Web3 product-based company. We develop products so that people on Web2 can move to Web3 easily. Right? So you don't need to know smart contracts or anything. We just help you with that. And when I joined Simba, all they wanted me to do was come in, set up our QA process. We don't want anything else from you. We don't have a QA team. We want you to come in, set up the team, set up the processes for us. And in turn, I said, I don't know blockchain. I've read about it, but I have never worked in it. And I said, well, we'll let you learn about it. And 2 years later, if you're on my LinkedIn profile, you'll know that I'm writing articles on blockchain now. So that's what's invested to me, and I'm grateful for that. So yeah, that's about me. Let's get to what we are here for, actually. Today's agenda, we're going to look at past to future and how testing has evolved over the days, right? And how we're going to do that by a simple user story. So I'm going to tell a real life user story and see how testing has happened, what is quality in each of the phases. Okay. And we're going to have a conclusion, obviously, of future outlooks and what are our key takeaways. So obviously, past to future includes present. The human evolution, right? I'm not saying the human evolution cycle, but from a testing perspective, right? What we can see from this and how we involve testing here is every stage that there's an evolution happening, there's two constant static factors and one variable. A little bit of physics here, right? So the constant factor is basically that as a human, I identify or I design a new tool. Why am I doing that? To make my life easy. And what is the variable factor here? Is the tool I identify, or I create, or I make, or I invent, whatever words we want to use, or I discover, right? So that's what it is. So, and how is that going to implement, or how is that has taken shape across the past, present, and future, or will take shape in future, right? And in addition to it, what I want to add is I am grateful. I know some of you here should be as grateful as me because we have seen the past where there's been no internet. I've lived through days, maybe my childhood days, and that's why I put my age factor there, that I'm 40, and the present where we all live with our phones and everything, and then the future, what future holds for us. And when I say future, it's not like 20 years down the lane. I'm talking like 4, 5, max 10 years down the lane is what I'm looking at future. So the user story here, the cool incident. So this is my real life user story. So I was about 4 or 5. I was brought up in the Middle East, in Bahrain, where this is 1980s I'm talking about. We went away for a weekend away with family and friends. And we went to a pool. And I didn't know they were not floating, guards or anything. And my parents just made me sit by the pool with my feet in the water, and we went away. What does the 4 or 5-year-old do? Test the waters. They jumped in it. I drowned, nearly drowned. Happy ending. I'm still alive. I'm standing in front of you all. But yeah. And one of my dad's friends saved me. I had to be rushed to the hospital. A few days later, I was discharged. And yeah. That's what happened. That's a real life incident that happened. Now, let's see how this would have been handled in the past, right? Passing on this information to the rest of the family who lived in India, and some of my family lived in Australia at that point of time. Let's just stick to one country. So let's say India. right? Those days in 1980s, normal commoner family, right? So there's going to be a bit of audio involved in these next few slides. Okay, so we used to write letters. There were no telephones. They were no internet to message people. So we used to write letters. I remember my parents writing my grandparents a letter saying I drowned and somebody saved me. And then the letter reaches my grandparents weeks and weeks later. And then after the doctor's incident, then they get another letter, which reaches them. And, by the time the whole incident reaches my grandparents, it's almost a month. Right. So what is quality meant for an end user at this point of time? And what sort of testing do we do at this point of time? Right. It's basically having a very legible handwriting, having a valid postal address, and maybe a right stamp value. So you know that it reaches the right recipient. And it's all amazingly manual. Thanks to some postman out there who's checking all these details manually and sending it across over the countries. So the next stage, any idea what it could be? Let's make it a bit interactive. So now it was like, weeks and weeks, going, how can we make it better? And then the next stage of invention was
Telegram? I don't know.
good one. I might take that as my next presentation note. I don't know if sound's going to come through. Old-fashioned telephones. My grandparents actually had these. And just as a lover of an antique thing, we have this as our landline phone. I mean, nobody rings on my landline, but this is our landline phone. And this is how it rings. So my grandparents had these. Right? So long distance phone calls. So back then it used to be called International Standard Dialing, ISD calls, and not everyone had a phone in their house, or not everyone had a number associated with each of the house. Right? So there will be somebody who has a phone, and then everyone gives that number, and you talk to each other by, oh, I'm calling for Gamarthi's grandparents or something. Speak. But it was more near to immediate, because I could pass on the information rather than it taking 2 weeks, right? So what does testing meant here? It was literally somebody, the telephone company operators, ensuring that the cables, the physical cables are still functioning, they're connected, they're working, and it was a common scene that you see repairs being done for those wires if they've fallen off due to rain, storm, whatever be it, right? And imagine the training that needs to be done, because someone is physically sat there telling, oh, you should be connecting A1 to A2, B1 to B2. And a common scenario then was crosstalk. I don't know how many of you know about it, but you could hear 2 other people talking over what you were speaking. Right? And it was still very manual. And so what we see here is, yes, I'm trying to pass on the information, but is the person I'm speaking to is the right person? Am I being connected properly? And yes, testing is done, but everything is very manual those days. So here comes the next phase.
You got mail.
We've got internet now, right? Everyone has got a digital identification. Not everyone, people who could afford a computer, or people who knew that there was, internet cafes out there, and, they could go and access their emails. But what did this do to us? It gave us the access that sending the information was instantaneous. This was my invention, because what we felt was it was taking too long. So we tried cutting it down. Now we're saying my sending part is instantaneous. So say I send an email to Hannah, and Hannah would be like, okay, I don't know you send me an email. I'm not in touch with you. So whenever Hannah finds time and goes to a browsing center or decides to sit on a computer, then I would say, oh, okay. And what I could do is, with the drowning incident, I'd be like, oh, you know what? She nearly drowned. She was taken to the hospital. And I could even attach a doctor's report to that now. Right? So when Hannah finds it, she's got all the information. don't know still how long it's gonna take for her to actually see it, and I wouldn't know when you have seen it as well. Right? But testing meant here that emails were getting delivered to the right addresses. Right? And it's also that the servers were up and running, and that they're actually being sent across. And let's remember password recoveries. I don't know if anyone had computer back then. I was about like in my secondary school, I guess, when we had a computer in our house. And password resetting was tedious. If you forget your password, you have to set up a new email. That's how it was. It was much easier then. Okay, so yes, it was. And at this stage is when insurance claims became very popular. Right, you could claim insurance for certain activities that has happened in your life. But it was long-winded. What did we do? The next invention. We all have our phones today. This is more present, right? I can send a text. You hear this click every single time, that even in the cinemas, they say, can you please put your phone on silent? Because people care, because the other person doesn't know what you're doing. So you're constantly getting the sound. But what happens is with these chat apps, I know there are millions out there, and I'm sure like my son would know more than what I know. Let's stick to the most common one, WhatsApp, right? So I could send a text and I would know that it's been delivered, not only delivered, that they have read it, the 2 blue ticks, right? So, and it was all real-time updates. And today's generation, or the younger generation, if the drowning incident had happened while they were there, it's all instantaneous. I could be like, oh my God, and it's all on social media. And I know for a matter of fact that they could be like, oh, let's redo this. Let's go live and try doing this. And then let's see how many likes I get, how many comments I get for this. Right? That's how today's world is. So what does testing meant here? So this is our current Web 2 testing. So everything we've been doing, everything we have discussed about, I think Navya enlightened more around the automation testing, right? So you've got automation, you've got the functional, your security, your pen, everything is what present day is all about. And whatever we all do today is what this is about. So how does the near present look like? This is where I am working, so I hope I don't get into a tangent and just digress from the topic. This is one of the feedback my son gave me, that, oh my God, stop talking so much about blockchain with this slide. So blockchain, basically, I'll just keep it very simple. So it is nothing but a huge database. Like BCS can have a database, and if you all have a computer on you, which could have enough space in it to store a database, then we'll all be networked within the blockchain. And say if Gamati says, oh, I was nearly drowning, but I got saved, that would be converted into a transaction, and everyone will get a copy of it. Not just in one centralized database. Everyone will have a copy of it. That is basic. And no one single person can go and delete the record or update it or edit it. As simple as that is. And you own your data. These are the things. When I say you own the data, you give permissions to people who can see your data externally outside this network. Okay, so that is the basic concept of blockchain. So where does blockchain come into space here? Why is the next invention? Because until the previous step, what we saw is all about centralized database. So when I say the insurance company, whatever claims I put in goes into the insurance company's database. And we know when management changes or something happens, the data could be lost. But when you're within blockchain, everyone's got a copy, right? So, and nobody can go and edit it, delete it. So it's basically immutable. So how does testing happen here? So your insurance claims are made easy because everyone's got a copy of it. They can just go check it out there if you've given them the access. And your paramedics can prescribe you, look at your allergies, prescribe you the medications that you should be having because it's all there. You've given them access to it, right? So testing for me is about smart contracts. Yes, smart contracts are nothing but a set of rules. Look at it as a set of rules that you put out there. It's a program that's got a set of rules. And if everything tallies up in the set of rules, perfect. Your transaction gets accepted. It's added onto the blockchain. Never can. Impossible to be deleted or edited. Okay. Now, this is our present today. And blockchain testing, as I said, includes everything that we have been testing in Web2. Smart contract testing, you've got the audits around the smart contracts and all those things. I'm not getting too much into details because it might be overwhelming for some of us. It was initially for me when I started with Simba. So how does our near future look like? And this is the area I have been researching lately a lot into. Right? We know what AI can do. AI can predict, you feed the data to the models and it can give you more information. Obviously, there's a hallucination factor, right? And how does it explain itself? Like, where am I getting this data from? Imagine combining them two together. Blockchain has the data in it and it's all true. Everyone trusts it. Everyone's approved it. It's validated. Combined with AI, feed the actually trusted data to AI. AI stops hallucinating, it gives you the information. And you can trust the data that AI is giving out. Right? So testing, how does testing happen here? You could get the models to test each other. Right? Check for the accuracy of the data between what model A tests the system, model B tests the system, check for accuracy between them, check for reliability between them, make the models test each other, right? And add that information to blockchain. Blockchain can then feed that back into AI to give you more improvised predictions. So imagine in that drowning incident, you have an AI monitored pool. There's no human intervention. AI is monitoring it. As soon as it sees somebody struggling, it sets the alarm. It could even be pushed to a limit where it could send out emergency services, signals to emergency services to come and, rescue people, right? How the AI model reacts to the situation. So those are the types of testing we should be looking at when it comes to AI. How can we make the model more reliable? Add it with blockchain and see what it reacts. Obviously, there is the factor of biases, right? So they could be beginner swimmers, could be experts, and not everybody swims the same way. There are children who would be swimming. So these are the different biases that you can feed these information. The more information you get, add it to the blockchain, feed it to the AI to have a better improvised prediction. Right? So this for me is how the near future is looking like. But this is all right if I'm in a small pool with like 10 people, and then AI is looking at like people, and then it says, great, I can do this. Let's add quantum to it. Now, quantum computers, I'm not an expert here. I've done my research a little bit around it. You can speak to Carl and Jonathan who are in this room listening to them about quantum computers. But one factor about quantum computers that I love to talk about today is the scalability aspect of it. Because of the huge amount of computing network functions that goes into it, it can be used for scalability. There is something in blockchain which is called the blockchain trilemma, is because you cannot scale blockchain because of the two other aspects that you have to maintain privacy, you have to maintain the security aspect of it. So include quantum into it for the scalability aspect, right? You get the immediate response. You can have hundreds and thousands of people in the pool, right? I'm sure majority of us know about the Chinese wave pool. Right, that was in 2022, if I'm not wrong, where there was a wave pool and like hundreds and thousands of people were there. How would you find out who's actually who's struggling there, who's enjoying there, who is the children? Are they suffocated? Who's feeling claustrophobic? Right? Include quantum into it.
Yes.
Get them also.
Much easier, isn't it? So what does it do? I'm looking at this future to be not just reacting to a situation, but it could predict something and prevent a disaster from happening, right? So immediately that it could, like, as I said, it could deploy, I mean, that's written down there, that it could deploy a flotation system, like as soon as it sees somebody struggling. Right? And if somebody comes in who's got medical conditions, imagine it can identify them quickly and change the pool, chemicals within it, so that they don't have any allergies around it. But what does testing mean here? Right? So you've got three aspects here. You've got the blockchain, you've got the AI, you've got the quantum. the data on blockchain, the AI model predicts, and quantum is used for scalability. Right, so you get more data, put it on blockchain, give it to AI, and then it predicts much further, better, rather, right? And something that we could add in that aspect of the debate pool was have a tag on people, right? Get all the information from that, like are they good swimmers, ask them to write it down and feed it back into your blockchain, give it to your AI. So what we have seen so far is from the early days where everything was manual to a day where we could prevent any disaster from happening with some amazing technologies that we as humans, we have identified. But it is not as simple and easy as we talk about because it is a double-edged sword. These are very evolving technologies. They are still learning. There's still so much uncertainties. And obviously, when we talk about AI, there is the ethical aspect of it, right? So because I have some information, I'm feeding to AI. Is that enough for the AI to make some predictions? So how does it know for that drowning incident? How does the AI predict if I'm actually drowning or I'm having some fun with my friends? So it's still evolving and it's still learning and it's still imperfect. So what I would want to conclude is by saying that we as human objects, right? We've got a shadow. And the shadow is the AI, the ASI, the AGI, whatever we want to call it, the quantum computers, everything. The shadow can grow big. It can be as huge as it wants, but until it's associated with the human object, we're all in safe hands. So I'm just going to say that the path forward is not going to be a guaranteed way to perfection, but we would have to have a perfect balance between progress that we are making and the prudence associated with it. Are we ready for it?
Thank you again for thank you again for coming to the talk as well. So
Thank you.
really great. So firstly, does anybody have any questions at all?
Surely the last thing you want to do is add quantum computing to blockchain. You need, as we discussed in the quantum computing talk earlier, you need for a blockchain to be immutable, it has to be based on proof of work, which is a non-deterministic polynomial time problem. If you make that polynomial solution, then you can change the blockchain. It's no longer immutable, and the whole thing breaks down.
So as I said, for the quantum, I'm looking at it just from a scalability perspective, and they're all evolving technologies at this point of time, right? So the one problem that blockchain has currently is the scalability aspect. And if we can include quantum in a way that the immutable aspect cannot be broken, then we have hit the jackpot. And as I said, it's the future. I'm not saying that today. I have done my research, and that's what's happening. But I know that for a matter of fact, my organization, we are researching around that area where we can still hold on to the characteristics of blockchain, but bring in quantum from a scalability aspect. So maybe my next presentation, I might have an answer for your question saying, yeah, we tried it, we failed miserably, or we found the answer for it.
Okay, good luck.
Comedy, one question. So like when we feed the blockchain things to an AI system, how secure it is? Because sometimes we are not feeding that. I mean, AI can be outside of our firewall, right? So but the things in your company, for example, if you take your company as an example, so your database is within your network. So are you creating your own LLMs to meet these two, or because it's not secure, I think it outside.
Great question. So because, I mean, as an organization, we work very closely with the US government. So anything we build, it's all in-house. So even we have an AI team, which is building our own LLMs. So based on that, that is where we'll be feeding our information into, or we are feeding our information into, or our data into as well. So yes, yeah.
Data coming from
Our data is where our end users are using it. So our customers' usage is what we are feeding in, obviously with all the privacy factors calculated into. Our test data goes into it, and we train our LLMs. And then we use a separate test set to test to ensure that the LLM is responding accordingly. It's a huge space our AI team is working on.
Wrap up, I think about. Cross all of those different things.
Yeah.
we talked about, and also in terms of bias as well. That might be something to add to your next presentation.
Yes. Thank you.
Does anybody have any further questions? Yeah.
Because the data is immutable, is that a pro or a con? How do you see? Because you said about scalability. If you scale that data, is that pro or is it a con? Because you're reading the blockchain, right?
Yes. So the thing is, for me, I'm looking at, because I'm on the side of the blockchain, I'm looking at it as a pro. Because that is one of the main characteristics of blockchain, that it is immutable, right? Otherwise, we could just go back to our centralized databases. And the challenge here that we have today, and that's why I hope, futuristically, the next time I come and present here, we'll have an answer for it, is that we should be in a position to say, yes, we have maintained the immutability of blockchain, along with breaking the blockchain, trilemma, and we can scale with maintaining the immutable aspect. So that's definitely a pro, and that is what makes a huge difference from Web 2 to Web 3. So you don't want to lose that aspect in thinking about scalability. That is my own perspective on it. There could be people who have different opinion to that, and I totally respect that.
So so does anyone have further questions or? But once again, thank you and very good presentation. And I would also like to say as well that it's great to see so many of you today. So we've just got one more presentation at 4:30 by Christina Kalova. Hello Assumption, my old friend. But no, thank you very much. Well done.